And I will tell you this. Last week I felt two things. Number one, I wasn't teaching Hasidus, I was teaching history and social science. And number two, I was being far too cavalier, being far too comfortable with but I got a little carried away last week. Too much emotion, too much certitude, too much I know exactly what I'm talking about. Didn't like it. Okay, yes.
It was amazing, it was fun.
You were here last week?
Yes.
Okay, but you have to understand, my job is to teach Torah, not social science. So I have to understand this side of the line and not this over the line. I want to tell you what the problem is, but the issue is, not a problem, it's an issue. The issue is that we're learning the 10th mind, like Hashem created the world with 10 things, 10 words, 10 sets of words, 10 sequences, 10 phrases, 10 mamarot. Each mind, Hashem is creating something. The last mind, Hashem isn't creating anything. He's creating the power in people to create. He's saying to the Jewish people, to the human race, what we need to do. And he tells us three things. Number one, people who have a lot of children. We talk about that at length, and that I was happy about, the way I explained it. And one of the things that I talked about when I talked about people who is why is it necessary to have so many people, because every person is a new world. Every human being is different than the other human being. It's not true of animals. Animals within one type. I'm reading an article recently. They're finding personality in animals. They're studying the smartest animals in the world, which are dolphins, which are elephants, which are the great apes. They're considered the smartest animals, and they're seeing personality. But it's not like people. Every human being is another world. The halacha is, if you see 600,000 people in one place, you make a bracha. What's the bracha? Only Hashem could make 600,000 entities look exactly the same, and each one is a different world. Like I told you, an Indian proverb that I saw once place. That when an old person dies, it's like a library is burned to the ground. It's true. I mean, it's not as true today because now we have paper and we have the computer and we have access to knowledge. But every human being is a repository. A person's life is a collection of information that's unique. And in a way, exists no place else in the world and never existed in history. So more people is more worlds. Right? That's true. Then there's middle, spread out to the whole world. Spread out to the whole world has to do with the fact that the Eibishter wants that people should diversify, people should go to different places, and people should become different. And people should become different and nevertheless get along. If you remember the conversation that we had about Milu as Haaretz, the conversation that we had with Milu as Haaretz was the question, would people be more peaceable if we all looked the same and spoke the same language, or would people fight more if we all looked the same and spoke the same language? And the Torah gives us a precedent. Before the Mabul, we all looked the same, we all spoke the same language, and we were the most corrupt. And it wasn't only deviousness and immorality, it was evil, cruelty, chamas. Hashem hates Avodah Zarah. He doesn't like Avodah Zarah at all. Hashem hates Kili Arot, hates immorality. But he can't tolerate violence. People are killing each other, stealing from each other, which people should know. It's you don't kill. And when we were all the same, we did more stealing and more killing than ever. So after the Mabul, he didn't do it right away. But after the Deira Flugga, which is a few generations later, they divided people up into different races. They began to look different, they began to speak different, they began to live in different places. So if you wanted to look at it bechitonius, you would say, at least I fight with you, but I get along with my neighbor. I get along with my neighbor because we share the fight with you. But at least there's some peace. But the ultimate point, as I explained to you last week, is that we should join together, just like a body consists of so many different cells and so many different cell parts. The one example that I didn't give you, that I meant to give you, was a community. Imagine you have a community. Tonight is a very large community, it's thousands of families. But imagine you have a community with 100 families, 150 families, in some rural place. Yeah? And you walk into the shul, you walk into the community center and say, okay, how do you live? Well, this guy takes care of medicine. This guy takes care of education. This guy takes care of bread. This guy takes care of wine. This guy takes care of fruit. This guy takes care of fish. Everybody got a job and we share, right? That's what people do. People are not like animals. Animals can live alone because their lives are simple. People's lives are very complicated. The Rambam writes this. So we need to share jobs. One guy makes shoes for everybody. One guy makes bricks. One guy lays the brick. One guy lays the pipes, right? And then that guy, we don't need him. That guy we don't need. He's extra. That is always a lie. Why is it always a lie? Because the Abishter put it. If you believe in Hashem, you believe that there's no such thing as a vestigial place. You have a community, and you are friends with this percentage of people, and then the percentage we don't talk to them because we don't need them. They wish they didn't live here. You are missing your own slaves. What makes you whole? What makes you whole is that you connect to every other person, just like in a body. If the body rejects some of the cells, if the body rejects one of the organs, it's a terrible illness. You need all the cells. Not only you need all the cells, because you need all those body parts. You need all the cells because every cell is made complete by every other. I'm not whole unless you're here. So in a community, it's very, very important that you should have many different types of people. Each one's a different role. In a perfect world, you know each person's role, you know the need for each person, and what the person's role is, and so on. Now, as the community gets bigger and bigger, you all become smaller and smaller, and they become more and more specialized. It's more and more complicated. And when it gets more complicated, it becomes not clear. It becomes not clear, it becomes politics. But the lack of clarity and the politics is a weakness. It's not true weakness. In the perfect world, no matter how many people there are, no matter how complicated it gets, if a person exists, we need them, and we need them for this. So, in other words, the idea that I'm trying to explain is the middle of the Kishuh is people were told spread to the whole world, become different, and then join together from that place of difference. No, don't become the same, remain different. Just like there's a right hand and a left hand. You don't want two right hands. There's a right eye and a left eye. You don't want two right eyes. The right leg and a left leg. You don't want two right legs. There's a brain and a heart. You don't want two brains. This is true of people. In a smaller scale, it's true in a community. In a larger scale, Hashem says people go, still the whole world, become different, and then join together into an achdus, which is where everybody is needed. I have a fantasy, and I have a lot of fantasy. Let me tell you, I have a lot of fantasy. One of my fantasies is how I understand the Shia. Do I have a source for this? Yes and no. I think if you had pressed me, I could find you a source. But I work this out of my own head. This is one of the things I think about. Okay, we always think of Mashiach in terms of people, Jewish people living in the Holy Land. Yeah, all the Jews, the whole world living in the whole Israel with a full base of mitzvah, keeping all of the mitzvahs. That's the classic idea of Mashiach, right? What about God? What about the rest of the world? So, of course, one answer to that question is, what do you mean? The Beis Hamikdash is going to be bigger. Yerushalayim is going to be bigger. And Yisrael is going to be bigger. How big? Theoretically, it could be the whole world. Theoretically, it could be the whole. But Goyim are disappearing. Whether you stretch at Yisrael or you don't stretch at Yisrael, whether you stretch Yerushalayim or you don't stretch Yerushalayim, whether you stretch the Beis Hamikdash, you don't stretch, the Goyim are going to be there. So I have this notion. This is my idea. My idea is that just like Yidden are taken from the whole world and go back to live where they belong, every Goy also has roots. Hashem made 70 nations, not 210, whatever number there is in the United Nations. 70 nations and 70 races. People from those 70 races are scattered all over the world. You have Armenians living in Turkey, you have Turkish people living in, I don't know what. I'm very bad at geography and politics, but you understand what's going on. Remember Yugoslavia? I'm guessing the young person. When the Soviet Union collapsed and the Eastern Bloc fell apart, Yugoslavia was a Slavic country. It was made up of a few different races. They started killing each other. Then under the Yugoslavian dictatorship, they held control. It became a problem. There were different peoples living together with different backgrounds. In my fantasy, every single person, not just every single Yid, goes back to his roots. Which is order of the world. If your roots this place, you belong in this country. and you live with people like yourself. But you don't isolate yourself, not just us. From just like the right hand needs to be here, and the left hand needs to be here, not a little bit here, and a little bit here, and a little bit here. The whole world becomes ordered, organized, political, ordered rather than tayyib, which means chaos. And in my head, that's how I see it. Just like you need to be organized in Eretz Yisrael, that's their place. Every person has a place. And the order consists of two things. Everybody has a place. Everybody is needed and is shared with everybody else in every other place, just like in a body. The body's organized. And we gave you a whole lecture last week about cellular biology. And a lot of little pieces. The world was made of billions and billions of human beings. Everyone has a wall that separates between himself and the person next to him. That's what makes us healthy. We have our own space, we have a shared space. This happens in a small way, it happens in a big way. But in my mind, that's Mashiach. Mashiach means every person has a place in this world, has a role in this world that's separate, that's distinct. And he has his own definition in his own place, or she has their own definition, own place. And from that place, we're all tied together. The center is the soul. The center is the Beis HaMikdash. The Psukim describes it. I'm right. Everybody comes to the Beis HaMikdash. Not just Yidden, Goyim. Not just Yidden Serve Hashem, Goyim Serve Hashem. Not just Yidden bring Kabbalas, Goyim bring Kabbalas. There's differences. A Goy can only bring on, I can't bring a Shlom. I told this to you before. The idea of sitting at the same table with Hashem and eating meat, only in special gifts from him. Goyim can bring a cart, but a cart you give away to Hashem. So all worship the same God in the same house of worship. We live in different places. We still have different countenances. We speak different languages. We bring to the world different things. And in a healthy world, we share. In an unhealthy world, we compete. In an unhealthy world, we're jealous. In an unhealthy world, we're afraid. So we fight. In a health, you understand what I'm trying to describe? To me, this is the type of miluas others. Hashem told Adam and Ish to spread out, become diverse, become many. And in a simplistic way, you'll become many, you'll fight less. In a sophisticated way, you'll become many, you'll join together in a more complicated order, in a more complicated tikkun. Look, a human being has so many parts. Everyone needs its own space. Everyone needs its own identity, its own definition, its own role, and they fit together perfectly. The Abishter wants people to be a lifestyle. Sometimes you see that in a family. Two families, very politics. Why? Because we're afraid, because we're petty. If we're not afraid and we're not petty, we can get along. So I explained to you milu asadins. And I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable with that. Okay, so through Ervu, Hashem wants a lot of people. And as I said to you in previous class, I believe this with my whole heart, although I never studied it. There were never more human beings on planet Earth than there are right now. Which means we're fulfilling a mitzvah Hashem gave Goyim, not Yidden, Goyim. Have a lot of babies. And the Gemara says before Mashiach comes, there's going to be a lot of babies. Then there's the second mitzvah, milu esaretz. Spread out, be different, and be distinctive. And have walls between yourself and your neighbor, walls between your country and the next country. But have holes on the walls, have doors. Share, like a healthy body. And Mashiach is that healthy world. But you must remember the key. It doesn't happen from weakness. It happens from strength. People do not live peaceably by giving in. People do not give peaceably by making compromise. People live peaceably by being principled. In other words, the idea that if we would give away stuff, the world would be a better place. It's not true. If you give away stuff, people are less people. Less human. And a human being who's a diminished human being is a jealous human being. He's an afraid human being, and he's going to become a violent human being. It has to come from strength. You're you. You're responsible for your life. You're responsible for your own little piece of ground that you live on. And you know how to take care of yourself. And you have your own opinion. And you disagree with the guy next to him. That's okay. From strength. It sounds utopic, like a fantasy. It is. It is. The credibility of it is, first of all, it's Taylor. I believe. That's a big, I believe. Yeah, do me, I think. Okay? But the second is that it comes from strength. It doesn't come from people not being themselves. So melting, it comes from being very much ourselves. A place of strength and personal responsibility and all the other things. This is Miluot. Then comes Kifshur, conquer the world. This is where I got into trouble. I mean, even what I said about Miluot, last week I was a little bit too political. I didn't like it. I didn't like myself. I'm not saying I was wrong, I didn't like my tone and energy. Tifshumi to the conquer the world. Conquer the world. Make the world out. And I told you something last week, and I'm going to repeat it. I don't disagree with what I said last week, but I do disagree with my tone. If you were in last week's class, I talked about the struggle between the Europeans coming here and the American Indian. I think it's a very good marshal for this. And I also think it's true. I just think you have to say it intelligently and not so emotionally and so passionately. My father talked to me about this a lot, so I can understand. I'll use my father's language, okay? By human being, there's a concept of ownership, owning something. The concept of ownership is recognized in Torah. Torah recognizes the idea it's something his. I pick something up, it's mine. I put a fence around a certain piece of property, it's mine. There's methods, there's mechanisms of ownership. And if I own something and I wanted to make it yours, there's a process by which it stops being mine and it starts being yours, a transfer of ownership. It's called the Torah King. Hashem gave human beings the possibility of owning a piece of the world. Animals live in the world, they don't own it. They fight, they compete. But they never stop fighting, never stop competing because they never really own it. Now, it's a philosophical thing. You know, I own a piece of land and there's a war in Mexico, so I don't own it anymore. And if you look at Chumash, look at halacha, and it's true even in international law, that when a nation fights a war with another nation, takes some of their land, it's changed ownership. Yesterday it belonged to this country, now it belongs to this country. Now, they may not be nice people, maybe terrible people, but it was owned by this one. There is a concept in Torah and in international law called ownership. People own stuff. The conflict that happened in America was it came to a land where people owned things collectively. They didn't have ownership. The Indians didn't own things. They lived together in huge swaths of land. We put up fences. They couldn't understand us. They couldn't understand us. So it became a big conflict. And of course, today, America's favorite words is "I'm sorry." Tell me how I can make it better. It's just fascinating. We're always apologizing. I hurt you, I hurt you, I hurt you, I hurt you. It's so not simple. It's really not simple. I've thought about it a lot. I have strong opinions. And I told them to you last week. You know, I gave you the example of the train. You know, the person who made the steam engine cost millions of wagon drivers his life, their jobs. So they should kill him. The person who made the sewing machine. And last week I couldn't remember his name, so we have something. He told the rest of the story. The guy who invented the sewing machine was almost lynched by the Sewers Union, Sewers Guild. Because he made a machine that in an hour you can sew more clothing than 100 people can sew on it. So we lose jobs. So it's a bad thing. In other words, every time there's advancement, this goes on. Today, the world is changing so rapidly. You know, I have a job today, tomorrow I'm out of a job. So I get a new job tomorrow. The world is changing. So you shouldn't let the world change. So I said that to my kids. When my kids were growing up, they would ask me, were the Americans wrong for coming here and taking away the Indian land? And I gave them what I thought was a fair and balanced answer. People don't like it. The people like to answer questions with their heart. The answer that I gave my children was as follows. If the Spanish hadn't come, right, and everybody came, it wasn't just the Spanish, right? It was the Danish, it was the British, it was the French. We had not come here. Would it have remained as it was, or somebody else would have come? And what was the reason we came to America? Why? Because we had better ships, better opportunity, could travel. In other words, you couldn't stop it. If it wouldn't have been us, it would have been the Russians. It would have been the Chinese, it would have been the Japanese. Anything which is inevitable is not wrong. It's just not wrong. Just like the sewing machine was not a bad thing, even though sewers unions lost their job, and the steam engine is not a bad thing, even though the wagon drivers lost their job. The way the American Indians viewed the resources in North America was unsustainable. There were too few of them, too much land. People were going to fill it. That doesn't make the people who came here bad. It's just it's the law of nature. No, nature hates a vacuum. There's a lot of people here, and a little people here. They will move. Just like a high pressure system and a low pressure system, right? There's a place on the earth. where the air is very thin, it's going to be filled by heavier air. It's just the nature of things. So people who came from Europe to fill the Americas, that's how you would act. Where's the line between them being right and them being wrong? The answer is, if they're coming here, what's going to happen? Because the world had changed and opportunities to migrate because of travel and so on and so forth had increased, and it was going to happen anyway. Then people to say it's my land, I own 1 billion acres and you can't take it because I decided it's mine. It just doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. That's the way when my kids ask me, will we right to come to America or the Indians right? That's my answer. There was cruelty. Cruelty is unacceptable. But to say that it was wrong for us to come because we destroyed their way of life, it's just too simplistic. It's just practically not real. And if it's not real, you cannot say that it's bad just because you feel that way. I understand. Everybody feels. People feel hurt all the time. If someone came along and found a machine to take your job away, you'd feel terrible. It doesn't make it wrong. It just makes it painful. And the same is true in all of these scenarios. I don't want to go into the Indian American story because it's very complicated. But I'm trying to give a basic picture. One of the things Europeans brought here were fences, walls, borders, ownership. Indians say they didn't have walls and borders. They sure did. Because they fought with each other like cats and dogs. What are you kidding? Before we came in, there was no war. There was tons of war. It was just different. Our walls actually allow us to live closer. Our walls allow us to be more densely populated. More people in a smaller space. Why? I own my house. There's a separation between my house and your house. And you can live next door. If there's no walls, we have to be a mile apart. Not a picket fence apart. Anyway, this is social science. There I go again. But this is actually true. Hashem wants people to make the world theirs. Doesn't mean you have to destroy all the forests. And a lot of destroy the forests. It doesn't mean you have to kill all the animals. I'll kill the animals. Doesn't mean you have to destroy all the fish. Doesn't mean you have to contaminate the air. Doesn't mean anything bad. Just means the Eibishter made the world for people. And the world served them. Now, guys, this is not a nice thing to say. It's not politically correct. But it's religion. It's tighter. It's endless. As you know, I've told this to you many times before. Have you ever seen the recycling symbol? Yeah, it's a series of arrows going around in a circle, right? Everything needs in an ecological system, everything is everything. The earth needs the water, the air needs the earth, and the water, the animals, the plants. Everybody needs everything. You take one animal out, take one plant out, everybody suffers after we can figure everything. And turn is also an ecological balance, but it's not a circle, it's a straight line. The earth serves plants serves animals serves people serve us. There's no cycle. It's not a circle, it's a line. Everything is about. The Eibishter made the world for people. The Eibishter made people for himself. We have to live our lives on this earth in a way that serves him. And if we live our life on this earth in a way that serves him, we're not going to destroy the world. We're not going to kill animals. We're not going to destroy nature. We're going to preserve it. People are in a position to do an enormous amount of good for the world. It doesn't mean that not allowed to put up a fence. Hashem wants people to own the world. But you must understand what that means. People owning the world means bringing to the earth the spirit of people, humanity. What is the spirit of humanity? The spirit of humanity is, I've been giving you the speech now for 5 or 6 classes. Seven of the What's a person? What's a human being? I'll be telling you now. I'm not talking now in the world. A human being is a creature who looks like Hashem. Looks like Hashem. Now, I never know Hashem looked like anything. Great question. The answer is complicated. We talked about it in the past. But one thing is for sure, looking like Hashem means it's better to act like Hashem. Acting like Hashem means acting responsibly, acting with fairness and balance, taking responsibility. But I'm responsible for me. I assert myself. I have my opinion, and I own a piece of this world. If a human being lives like Hashem wants a human being to live, in other words, we live in His image, and we own a piece of this world, that piece of the world is His. If you live next door, you live in the image of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You own a piece of land, and in your piece of land, you live where Hashem wants you to live. That piece of land belongs to Him. That's the third instruction. True of who have a lot of babies throughout the whole world. Milu ought to spread out and diversify and figure out how to join together from a place of maximum complexity. Vikiv Shua, conquer the world, make it our own. In other words, I don't believe the Indians are right. I believe the Westerners are right. I don't believe in the justification for killing millions of people for fun, like they did in Central America and Mexico. But the idea that because I live here, you can't live here, is just not true. It's untenable. Because if it's not going to be me, it's going to be somebody else. Why didn't they come to America until 550 years ago? Because they couldn't travel. If it had not been the Europeans, it would have been the Asians. It would have been the Asians, it would have been the Africans. It's just the nature of the world. So Hashem wants us to make a piece of the world. Billions of people, each one owns a piece of the world. So split up into a bunch of little pieces. I have a gate between me and you. That gate, which separates me from you, allows me to live closer to you, and it has a door. This is how I understand these words. You're welcome to talk. No comments. Go ahead.
So I agree with you on like 99.9%, but I just want to, because in my head it doesn't fit perfectly. I want to understand one thing.
Yes. The part of what I said, which is not precise, is that what I described is completely fantastic. It's a dream. It's mamish a dream. And I believe that this dream is in a way is Mashiach. Now you say, how could it be? 5,000 years we've been killing each other, and how's Mashiach going to fix it all? There's an answer to that question. Answer to that question. These 5,000 years, we learned a lot of lessons. We're not the same people we were 5,000 years ago. The lessons that we learned are still not practiced properly and completely and comprehensively, but we've learned a lot of lessons. We're ready for Mashiach. Means human beings have learned enough. We're ready for someone to make us right. But making us right means taking responsibility. No one's, if Mashiach takes care of us, he's not Mashiach. Mashiach empowered us to take care of ourselves. Now continue.
So not on that point am I confused. I'm confused on the point right before that about inevitability. For example, I know it's not exactly the same, but if someone in old age is going to pass away, me killing them now, it's not me saying I can kill them because it's inevitable. The same way that if we didn't go to America, if the Europeans didn't go to America, then maybe Russia or Asia would have. My question later is it a question of inevitability or is it a question of what we did when we got here?
Well, what we did when we got here was a choice. Our coming here was inevitable. So maybe there's been never a way to do it. I mean, the Indians were not such big tzaddikim. They just happened to be losers. So now they became big tzaddikim. They did plenty of killing. Don't kid yourself. They did plenty of killing. They didn't like the fact that we were here, but they didn't accept the fact that we were here. They pushed back. So we pushed back. It's a complicated story. There's a certain narrative. There's a certain way you're supposed to tell the story because one person is good and one person is bad. The decision of who's good and who's bad is made entirely on emotions. It's just that reflection of history, reflection of how you're supposed to feel about it. You conquer a nation, you win, they lose. Now you have to feel bad for them and pay them. This is a uniquely American disease. It's so stupid. It really is. But okay, that's a different detail, but you're asking a very, very sensitive question. Your question is that by the same token of arguing inevitability in certain things, you can stretch that inevitability that can cross over into areas of violence and destruction. It's an interesting question. The short answer to your question, that's what the Torah is. The Torah tells you which inevitable is good and which inevitable is bad. The Torah is the Torah's other. We're human beings are the image of Hashem. To keep our equilibrium, for our mind to stay straight and not go to one extreme or to the other extreme, Let's stay in the middle. Torah keeps us in the middle. So you gave a specific example. The specific example is about euthanasia, right? Ending a life. The answer to your question directly is every human being is a piece of God. You have the right to kill a piece of God. You don't know what it is. Oh,
Everything's
It's
about a
different.
charity.
it's different. It's different. Human beings are in the divine image. We kill the animals. Some people say we're bad for it. It's not the same thing. So now I'll prove it. On what basis am I saying it? Why am I right? How do I know exactly where the line is? The honest answer is the Torah tells us the line. I don't know if Torah is true. I don't know, maybe Torah is made up, but it's a great question. The answer is that you could replace the Torah, we could talk. The Eibishter made the world, he understands the balance between normal evolution and unacceptable, normal change and unacceptable change. In other words, to give the example, people came to America. I don't think you could have stopped them, but you didn't have to be cruel to the people who lived here. And a lot of the Spanish who came were profoundly cruel. That's not inevitable, that's evil. So there's a difference between saying you can't stop progress and saying allow progress to destroy people. There's a line. It's very hard to find that line. I will agree with you. And maybe if this is the 1% that you disagree, is how do we know where the line is? I mean, I'll give you an American example, a simple American. And I think lately I've been thinking about this a lot. I don't know why, but it's in my head. America was built on self-reliance. America was built on I'll take care of me, don't help. You know that? The people who lived here were all pioneers. They worked very hard. They either died or were extremely hardworking, extremely resourceful, and they made out of a wilderness the most beautiful country in the world. They really did that. The people who came to America had a unique spirit of freedom. Not freedom, I can do whatever I want. Freedom, I can take responsibility for myself. You need to understand. Only such a people could have written a independent and created the democracy that the whole world now copies. People who were so free could join together and self-govern. Could join together. People who are separated can become together and make it so that we can choose our leaders. And when the leaders are leading us, we're actually leading our leaders. This is a unique concept which started in America and now it's spread to the whole world, at least to many significant parts of the world, because Americans were such free people. If Americans were people who didn't see themselves as responsible for themselves, there would never been American Revolution, there actually would never have been born, and so on and so forth. Now, what happened to America? People let that train run. Anybody can do anything and do whatever you want, you're a free person. And some people became extremely rich and exploited people to the point of cruelty. People were working for these multi-millionaires in mines, cutting out coal or steel. There were no work conditions. Nobody cared if they got hurt. No one cared if children worked. It was terrible. But the government stepped in and made laws. That's the job of government, meaning there's balance. There's a line when you cross it, it's no longer good. Now, the pendulum swings the other way. You stop making rules to protect people, and you take away from people the will to be creative. You take away from people, maybe take away from people their freedom. You take away from people their freedom, they stop being people. So there's the pendulum swings. Where's the truth? The real answer to that question, the truth is the Tate is kind, but not too kind. Tate is mean, but not too mean. It's balance. Our country is ruled by a government. Our government is ruled by us. We are ruled by our hearts, not by our minds. That's not good. If people would think and objectively look at things, they'd be able to make healthier assessments of their world and better decisions. Torah doesn't let you do that. Torah says, these are the rules. You know how Torah does that? I'll tell you how Torah does it. It was written a very long time ago. The American legal system is being written as we speak. We make new laws every day. Make new laws. We don't like the law, we change it. Why don't I like the law? Because I don't feel like it. You can't make laws based on feelings. Because feelings aren't true. Feelings are moods, and they're going to pass. These other moods. The Abish gave us a Torah with laws about everything. In the Torah, there's laws about everything. There's nothing that you cannot find in the Torah. Any scenario that will ever come up in the world, Torah is speaking. But now, of course, Torah is written in a very different language. You have to apply it to the modern world. But if you look into the Torah, you can find answers. And you cannot make a new law because you feel like this. You have to look into the Torah and find a law. That's the balance. I need you to tell me if you understand what I'm saying. Now, you don't have to agree with me. But you get the picture that I'm painting. Okay, so let's break. Okay, we're gonna break. Let's do it for 5 minutes. If someone bring a cup of water, I'd appreciate it. And then we're gonna start. We're actually gonna go back to our friend, Baruch Shama, which is where we belong.
Я хотела Сашу Киги. В смысле? Я даже написала на чат. Я решила.
Thank you. I got through it, yes.
А, да? Я не проверяю в чат. Ты уже куда-то идешь? What? Thank you. You want me to text you? I'm going to. Of course. I'll say, yeah, okay. No. And Sammy is not there. Okay. Yeah, it'll be much more fun. Cause like a whole the girls are not. Yeah, having more,
Okay.
I guess.
You didn't need water, right? You choose enough. Well, I didn't another one shot and good.
Yeah.
I don't think I said anything different last year. You just said it different. Last year I said I was on a war path. It's fighting. Very, very tight.
Okay, so.
Okay, can we begin the class, Kindalach? Yeah, we ready? Yeah? Okay, everybody take one of these. Everybody take one of these. Okay, this is all in Hebrew, but I hope it's comfortable. Do you remember this page? Do you remember this page? And do you remember this page? Yeah, I gave you 4 pages. We have 15, thank you. We have 15 different Baruch Shalom, okay? Literally, I mean 15 different Baruch Shalom, okay? What you have on this page is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 versions. You see? You see it? The top one is ours. So if you want to write it in whatever language you write, the top one is for our city. The second one is the Rambam. The third one is the Budraham. The next 3 are actually early. The oldest is Rav Amram Gaon, who lived about 1,200 years ago. A little bit after him lived the Psadia Gaon, Rasad, which is the second from the bottom. And around the same time, these 3 are going. They're called geniuses. They lived before Rashi, before Rambam, before Rashi. In the Psagigon and the Masiviti. All of them have, except for the Rambam. Except for the Rambam. Everybody else has Avar Achman except for the Rambam. Okay? Now, Hamahulo Befeh Ame, they all have Hamahulo Befeh Ame, every single one, but there's a change. They say Hamahulo Befi Ame, and we say Hamahulo Befeh Ame. What's the difference between Befi and Befeh? The fee is plural in the mouths of his people. The fe is singular in the mouth of his people. So we have a chain. All of the Rishonim say the fee, we say the fe. Why? Because when you're talking about many people, you should say many mouths. We're wrong. We're wrong. It shouldn't be Befeh Amid. It should be Befi Amid. Many people, many mouths. Yet we say Befeh Amid with a collective mouth. Now there may be deeper reasons, but the simple reason for this is because Bay and Pei and Hey makes 87. Bay is 2, Pei is 80, Hey is 5 is 87. Remember what the 87 words about Shama? None of these guys do. All of the 5, the Rambam, Abu Ram, Anam, Goen, Shlomo, Goen, Shag, Machmeditli have many more than 87 words. The phenomenon of 87 words is written in Pirkei Avot, goes back to the time of the Halal. But none of the Goenim and the Rishonim of this, the Baal Shem is a much larger thing. Befeh is a remez for 87 words. Since they're not concerned with 87 words, they might as well say it correctly, Befi Amid rather than Befeh Amid. I'm sure there are deeper reasons, and I'm sure one day we'll find a deeper reason. I'm just showing, okay? So everybody has a Kale except for Abu Raham. Everybody has Abaracham except for the Rambam. Everybody has Amul Befeh Amid except we got Befeh and they got Befi, right? But then there's more. They have Hamelech, Hagodol, V'Hakodesh. Correct? Hamelech. And some of them have a Kale, Hamelech, Hagodol, V'Hakodesh. We don't have Hamelech. All 3 words, Hamelech, Hagodol, V'Hakodesh, are missing in our city. We don't have Hamelech, Hagodol, V'Hakodesh. But the Abu Dham has it, the Amram Gon has it, the Shlomo Gon has it. The Tzaddik Gon only has Hagodol, V'Hakodesh, the Hamelech is missing, you see? And the Machzeh Vitri also have Hamelech, Hagodol, V'Hakodesh. So this is enough to drive you mad. It's the same words of Siddur. There's a difference. Everybody has a kale except for one person. Everybody has a merachman except for a few people, right? Everybody has a whole family except they make the yeah. And then the so you see how complicated. Here's what's important. None of this is by mistake. It's all precise. If you would meet each one of these positions, they would explain to you exactly why they wrote it the way they did, why they wrote it in the order in which they did, and why they spelled it the way they spelled it. It's so perfect, which means that the Baruch She'omah can be read in so many ways. If Baruch She'omah is being read in so many ways, it's being read for so many reasons. And we got 2 reasons. We have only 2. The Baruch She'omah is only about creation, which is how we're learning it. Or the Kubalim and Hasidus are going to say the Baruch She'omah is both about creation and about freedom. But we're not learning it. We are learning Baruch She'omah according to the Rishonim only. And I made the decision, I told this to you. I'm not teaching you about Shama. We finished Baruch She'omah, we're doing different. I got to teach you some sikhs. We didn't learn one sikh this year. I got to figure out a better way to do it. Next year, we're doing sikhs. We're doing sikhs with Matt and Data. So I wasn't going to be here, but next year's girls are not going to get any sikhs. Just going to get sikhs. I have to speak with it. With the Bochrim, I'm going to teach them the Kabbalistic version about Shama. I'm not doing it twice. You understand what I'm saying? I have a division of labor. I teach to different places, different parts of it. For me, it's fun. I get to work hard. I love to do stuff. It just needs time. I don't mind hard work. I do about my time to get up time. I hate coming to class unprepared. Prepared means as much time as it takes. How much it takes, I don't know before. I'm done my eating. Anyway, the difference between Baruch She'omah is Baruch She'omah only about Hashem creating the world, with Hashem giving us freedom. All of these people, except for us, say that it's only about Asad Mabat, Hashem creating. And Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam, Elokeinu Avarachman Amhu Befeh Amid, or the Hudra, third one. Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam, Hagodol V'Hakodesh, Amid, the Amid is describing the 10 elements. What's the 10 elements, girls? What's the 10 elements? Hashem is not doing it, He's empowering us to do it. The first 9, He does. He made the world. He made the day and the night. He made the sun, the moon, and the stars. He made the heaven and the earth. He made the land and the sea. He made the vegetation. He made birds. He made fish. He made reptiles. He made amphibians. He made domestic animals, wild animals, and He made human beings. He did all of that. Those were the first 9. The 10th utterance is Him giving us the power to do what He did. Make a lot of copies of ourselves, but no 2 copies are going to be the same. Spread out to all places in the world so we can diversify and fill every corner of the world and become different based on where we live. Make the world our own. What am I thinking? What am I thinking? What I'm thinking, if you study ancient civilizations, and I really didn't, I just know, everything I know is that, I read, I'm a curious person, I love to know, but I don't study, I study data, study computer. You know how many civilizations failed because they ran out of food? Civilizations failed because they ran out of water. There are ancient civilizations in Southeast Asia that all you have is the monuments, the rocks, these big geshkes. No people. People all died. You know why? They ate up all the food on the island and then they started a bunch of people. In America, you see this all over. Huge civilizations. Indians have been in America for thousands of years, and they built massive, very successful civilizations. They rose and they fell on water. They ran out of water, they started to kill each other, they died out. They went someplace else. That's what happened. And what's special about the time that we live right now? You figured out how to solve almost every problem. We figured out how to use our resources in the world. We figured out how to take salt water and make it fresh. You know what? We've even figured out how to clean the air. We've figured out how to solve all these problems. That's part of the Abish's plan. So now you're supposed to ask a question, which is no good answer. So why did Hashem make people to go to these places and die out because they didn't figure it out yet? It's not fair. You're right. Because we are all part of a collective body that in a classroom called the history of mankind, and we are learning these lessons over 5,000 years. And unfortunately, sometimes lessons are learned very painfully. But we're pretty much the end of the story. You understand? And the end of the story is that there should be maximum number of people living maximally close to each other, utilizing the resources in a renewable way. This is Hashem's wish. And that's how we become in the image of Hashem. Think about it. And it can't happen without the faith. Trust me, it can't happen without people by themselves. They're always going to be too weak or too strong, too jealous, too aggressive, too violent. Without the faith, but with the faith, it can happen. That's the 10th commandment. Hashem made the world in 9 utterances. The 10th utterance is now, you people, give me back the world I gave you. I gave you a world, give it back. What's he really saying? Make it into a garden, make it into a beautiful garden. Live it, fill it, sustain it, keep it alive. These are lessons that people learn very painfully, very painful. So the last of the 10 utterances, Hashem telling people, I gave you a world, I made it perfect. You're going to live in this world and you make mistakes. And the mistakes are going to bring all kinds of nasty things to the world. Your ultimate end is to give me back as beautiful a world as the one I gave you. With fences. With ownership. Not the whole world belongs to everybody. One little piece of the world belongs to each person, but we all live together. So now here's our question. How is that written in the word? Or in the Rambam's version. Or in the Abu Dhabi's version. Or in the version of the Babylon Gun. Or in the words of the famous of nothing God, same as the Rambam. Or according to the Tzaddik God, he takes out the word Amalek. Or according to the Maphilitri, he doesn't have a hey. You get it? What do you think? Do you have a way of explaining how these words are connected? Hashem saying to the world, I'm giving the world to people, you give it back to me in good order. Good question, isn't it? Nobody has any opinion. They're afraid of making mistakes. What's going to happen? You'll say something. The worst thing is I'm not making fun of you. The best thing will happen is you'll guess what I'm guessing, which, by the way, which isn't true either. But my guess. But I'm not afraid to guess. Why? Because I'm 60 years old instead. You know what started Mark Twain? Mark Twain used to say that when I was 20, I was very, very giving to my wife, and everybody was thinking about me and talking about me. I didn't know what was going on. When I turned 40, I decided I don't care what anybody thinks. When I turned 60, I discovered no one was ever talking about me in the first place. I'm 60. You know, this is what I said in that. No one who's talking about me. Never. Everyone's busy with themselves. You can do whatever you want. Say whatever I want. You're not 60, you're 20, so you're still thinking what everybody else is thinking. Ouch. I was 20, did the same thing. I told myself I did, but believe me. So anybody have any opinions? Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam. Baruch. Baruch. The blessed, right? Now, is there anything in the world weirder than giving Hashem a bracha? I'm asking you. Hashem, I give you a bracha that. What's the bracha? What bracha are you giving the Eibush? If you give the Eibush the bracha, you're telling him that he's missing something and you need to give him the bracha to get it. That means you're insulting him. I give a bracha that you should what? Grow up? Not grown up yet. You should become kind. You're not kind and you're smart. What bracha are you giving the Eibush? I'm asking a question. Don't look at me. Answer it. You're not giving a bracha to Hashem. You're giving a bracha from Hashem. Baruch means to come down. Baruch, Hashem, come down into your world. Baruch is Lashon Shach. Baruch means to bring from a higher level to a. When you give Hashem a bracha, you're not saying Hashem, you're missing something. I want to give you something. When you give Hashem a bracha, then you're perfect. I want your perfection to come down into the world. That's the meaning of the word Baruch. To bring Hashem into the world. Like the famous story of the Baal Shem Tov, which I probably tell you once a month. Baal Shem Tov came to a marketplace. Near the marketplace there was a Parish. What a Parish is? A man who lived in a shul with grinders on his eyes, cotton in his ears, cotton in his nose. He shouldn't see anything. They shouldn't hear anything. They shouldn't smell it. 24 hours a day he stayed in shul and he davened and learned Torah. He was a big tzaddik. If you wanted proof, just ask him to tell you how big a tzaddik he was. And he was removed from the world completely. Now, some of these Perushim were incredibly holy, and some of these Perushim were great actors, you understand? And some of these Perushim were not sure who they were. We know stories about these Perushim. Some of them were very good tzaddikim. Some of them thought they were big and tzaddik, and they actually were. But they were trying to do the right thing. But one thing is for sure, they didn't think about anybody but themselves. They were big as a private way. The Baal Shem Tov walked into the shul of a Parish. Somebody told the Parish that the Baal Shem Tov, saw Baal Shem Tov was here. Baal Shem Tov was a famous man. So in honor of the Baal Shem Tov, the Parish took the blinders of his eyes and took the cotton out of his ears. He kept the cotton in his nose, he didn't smell, but he could hear it. And he read the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov said that this Parish, Chaim Moshe Ben, who was descended out, whatever his name was smart. How you doing? What's the answer to that? How many doing? Huh? New York City had a mayor named Mayor Ed Koch. He was a mayor in the city 40 years ago, 35 years ago, 45 years ago. And Koch used to say, how am I doing? He wanted to hear what you had to say, and didn't even know he wanted it anyway. He was a Jew. You know what he wrote to my Matzeva? I was born a Jew and I will die. Mayor Koch did not look like a Jew at all. There was a Jew named Daniel Pearl who was literally shechted on international television by the ISIS people. They literally shechted him with a knife, like they shechted animals. And his last words were, I was born, it was very secular man, I was born into a Madonna. Koch wrote in his movie, born a Jew, Daniel Pearl. The name of this man, you have no idea how secular Koch was. There was nothing Jewish about Koch. His God. He wrote his own epitaph. He's buried in a Christian cemetery. I was born a Jew, I will die a Jew. And underneath it said the name of that Kaddish, Daniel Pearl. This is one of the most complicated Jews in the world, turned out to be Jewish anyway. He's still out of his show. He tried very hard not that. Anyway, he used to say, how do I do it? Anyway, let's get back to us. Yeah. He asked this Parish boss, how you doing? What did the Parish say? You should have said Baruch Hashem and move on. But it was a punch, it was an uptight, nervous guy. Stands, he said, "Baal Shem Tov don't waste my time." You want to take a Gemara, we talk about it. Talk about it, You want to talk his bonus, meditation, diving, whatever you want, but don't tell me how to do it. I don't for that. And he tells them in the market, there's a lot of simple people. They have a lot of time and nothing to do with it because they're a bunch of dumb. You can ask them how they are, they got plenty of time. You know the story or not? You know the story? You know the story? You know the story? Huh? So the Baal Shem Tov said to this part, quote, "Was nennst zu bei dem Rebbeinu Leben sein Parnas?" Why are you depriving Hashem from his Parnas? Why are you taking away from Hashem his livelihood? Now, I didn't know the Abish didn't make a living. I always thought that the Abish knew how to make, and we had to work out to make a living, he'd make it easier. He has to make a living, he's living itself. But the Baal Shem Tov said that this product that he's taken away from the Abish Parnas. The product said to the Baal Shem Tov, "Excuse me? What is that supposed to mean? Take 1% of the Abish Parnas." The Baal Shem Tov answered. And it says in Sivan, based on a pasuk. Va'ata Kodesh. Anybody speak Hebrew? Va'ata Kodesh. Translate. You are holy. Holy means removed. Yoishev. What causes you to sit? The Hilas, you saw when Jewish people say pray. When a Yid says Baruch Hashem, Hashem sits down. And if the Yid doesn't say Baruch Hashem, Hashem remains standing up. Hashem remains removed. So what's the pshat? Hashem needs parnasa. Hashem needs parnasa, meaning we have to create a seat to come into the world. That's the type of. You're not giving the Eibush to the brach. If Hashem is missing something, it would be nice Hashem if you got smart. You know the old story. But Rebbe Rashab had a nephew, cousin, who was 31 years older than him. Very big Rebbe. And the Rebbe Rashab's mother, the Rebbe Rashab used to say that the Rebbe Rashab's cousin is a bigger tzaddik than my son. So really? Somebody in the world, the bigger tzaddik, that yeah, for sure. The compass, the Rebbe, the bigger tzaddik. What's the truth? They want that. The Rebbe Rashab and his first son, Dom, and an argument about how to deal with a certain matter of public service. So my son's first cousin said to my son, as it's time to do those and trim. It's time for you to become more religious. And my son said to his cousin, who was 30 years older than him, as it's time to do those and it's time for you to get smart. And then the Rebbe Snifki said, and every day my son becomes more fluent. The compass is not getting smart. So the Rebbe Rashab's bracha is not big Makoyim, and the compass's bracha is big Makoyim. That I is a big tzad. You didn't understand. You didn't say from other guys. The son every day becomes more religious. So understand the compass's bracha is big Makoyim. The compass not getting any smarter. So my son's bracha is not big Makoyim. It's a joke. It's a funny joke. That's very. Okay, a bracha means to bring down. So good, you got to keep in mind. The whole Baruch Shem is Baruch. Every Baruch is the same thing. Every Baruch has a few words that are describing one of the things that Hashem did in the creation of the world that we have to bring down. A Baruch is to the Makai, it's to separate whatever the land from the sea or the heavens, the earth, whatever it is. Right? This is the bracha for people to make this world Hashem. So it's a different kind of bracha. It's not Baruch that there should be food, that there should be grass, there should be fish. It's Baruch that people should be clean. But what is the bracha? Baruch Hashem. You bring down Hashem. Hashem, Elokeinu, Melech, Ha'ilam. We bring into the world the Eibush, the He should be the king of the world. These words are saying what? That the fulfillment of the 10th mind, the fulfillment of the 10th utterance, which means people living as an Eibush that wants them to live, and basically giving the world of the Eibishter back, the Eibishter created, back to the Eibishter, is bringing Hashem into the world. So it fits exactly. What's the bracha? What are we bringing into the world in the realization of the 10th utterance? To use the quote from the Chazal, Hashem, Haaretz, and Loya. We're showing how the whole world belongs to Him. That's what these words mean. We're bringing down after Hashem. Havaya, as he has the name, he came up. Elokeinu is the name of Elokeinu, right? Ata means Hashem, Havaya means Hashem, Elokeinu means it. But we're bringing down Hashem, Hashem, Hashem 3 times. Why? Because it's Tefillah. Melech ha'olam, to the extent that he should become the king over the world. All of these words are describing exactly the essence of the 10th mind. What's the 10th mind? The 10th mind it is, I made everything that you make one thing for me. Give it back. So the words they shouldn't. You understand what I'm saying? They're the right words. This bracha is the 10th element of creation. What the 10th element of creation? That it's man's job to make this world Hashem. That's Baruch, and that's Atah, that's Hashem, and that's Elokeinu, and that's Baruch. You follow? But there's more words, yeah? And this was the whole argument, right? I don't know what. Everybody has the same Baruch Hashem, right? That's beautiful. The arguments come out. So let's talk about one at a time. Let's talk about the part that everybody agrees. First, we finish with that, we'll move on to what they argue about. You understand what I'm doing or not? I'm showing you how these words you have root of who umilu as audit, make it sure. Have a lot of babies, spread to the whole world, and make it yours. And by making it yours, you're making it Hashem. You understand what I'm saying? You understand what I'm saying? Why am I asking? Of course you understand. You just basically see anything a girl who don't like that, I feel screaming at you, you would talk more softly, maybe a little slower. Yeah, but we understand what you say. Rabbi, we understand what you're saying. Don't keep asking. How am I do it? Okay, now good. I want to start today. I'm going to talk about all of these words. Okay, we're talking about Baruch. I explained the word Baruch, correct? Baruch means I'm showing. You're not giving Hashem a bracha. Giving Hashem a bracha is an insult. Bracha means Hashem is being brought to us. The bracha, the Eibishter is the world. Just like the bracha of the world is the Eibishter, our bracha is Hashem, Hashem's bracha is us. The bracha we give Hashem is that we fulfill the reason which He made us. And the reason He made us is that we should make this world here. Why don't you bring it into the world? We're giving it back to Him. And that's Atah, that's Hashem, and the King. But let's have another somebody came to the world. It's the lowest level, and I want to do it first. Why? Because I'm going to do it first. You're nice people, you're not going to argue, you can do what I want, right? More of us. What's the opposite of a king? What's the opposite of a king? I'll tell you. A tyrant. The opposite of a king is a dictator. What's the Hebrew word for a king? A moshel, a shalit. You daven on Shabbos? Yeah. You say Ader Zemuna? Oh, Ader Zemuna, right? Bunch of it's sequences of double olives, right? What's the mem? You can look inside of the information. Ader Zemuna be Rebecca guy, but do all day, but you go ahead, but and right, remember? What's the difference between Melucha and Shalom? Melucha means the king, Shalom means the king. In the Aderes Ve'amun, every double line, the first word is higher and the second word is low. Aderes, Hashem means wears a cloak of kingship. Amun, we didn't have Amun. Abina, Hashem is very smart, therefore we have Abraham. Hagaiva, David should have us all. Therefore, Abidullah, he gives great kindness to the world. Every sequence, the first one is higher, the second one is lower. A king is higher than a dictator. You know why? You don't know why I'm telling you. Okay. A king is created willfully. King happens with free will. Two ways. Number one, the people act as the king. Number two, he agrees to be there. Now, who's saying? We're not saying Kibbutz Alei, it's considered. The definition of a Malach is a leader who's been chosen by the people, who agrees to lead the people, and the people agree to be led by him freely. Not with power, not with money, with bribes, not with threats, not with violence, not with manipulation, with free will. A king, the word that goes along with a Malach is Ratz. A dictator forces his order. A dictator uses a whip or uses an army. or he uses money, or he uses manipulation. The basic difference between a king and a dictator is, king is someone who doesn't want to think, but people ask him. A dictator is someone who wants to be a dictator, and he imposes it to other people. King, the people make it. A dictator makes himself. So the relationship between a king and subject is very deep. The relationship between a dictator and subject is I use you and you use me, and we try to create a mechanism. I always ask the girls a question: how much does a king give of himself to his subject? And the correct answer is he gives everything. Why? He doesn't want to be a king, he's not interested. If the people convince him to be a king, he's doing it for them, and he's doing it for them, he gives something them completely. Like you've been brainwashed on Lubavitch, that Emerson said, my father, the books belong to the Hasidim because my father books. That's not idle words, it's true. Our king belongs to the country, belongs to the people. So when a king gives, he gives all of himself. It's the way he comes up. What about a dictator? A dictator thinking about himself, not about the people. So how much did he give the people? The answer is only enough to stay in power. You heard of Rome? You heard of Rome? You heard of Rome, yeah? You haven't heard of bread and circuses? You heard of bread, bread circus. Rome was a very big city, the largest city in the ancient world. And their secret, the most of the things was they had water. The Romans built an aqueduct. They brought millions of gallons of water from other places into the city of Rome. In other words, Rome, most places in the world, 2,000, 3,000 years ago, couldn't have too many people because there wouldn't be enough water. Rome imported water, and it imported bread. You have a very large city, with lots and lots of people, you have what's called slum. You have poor people, don't have work, don't have jobs, they live in very difficult accommodations, That's where all the trouble is. The poor people with no money, no prospects, they want to commit violent crime. They rob people in the streets, they kill people on the bed, they want to take their wealth together, right? And ultimately they make an evolution. They heard of evolution, and evolution, they make revolution, right? They have a bunch of poor people with nothing to do, nothing to lose, and you're afraid of the revolution, what do? You entertain them. Give them free bread, free bathhouses, and free circus. So you what you call it, you medicate them. You drug them into staying poor. You get it? A dictator gives his subjects enough just to stay in power. Is it good for the people? No, it's good for the dictator. King doesn't want the job. And there's poor people in the kingdom, his job is not to keep them poor, people making revolution, is to give them opportunity. You see the difference? Hashem is called the Melech of kingdom. Now it says in Chassidus that Hashem was not a king until we heard it. Right? All Rosh Hashanah stuff. A Melech, the lawyer. You cannot be a king without people. The people, when Hashem made the world, you know what he said to us? When Hashem made the world, you know what he said to us? Please make me your king. So what do we tell him? You need our permission. You do what you want, you got. I just know I don't need your permission, but I need your will. If I force myself on you, then I'm not your king, I'm not your dictator. I need you to ask me to be your king, so when I become your king and you become my subject, I do it willfully and you do it willfully. But then I'll be your king and you'll be my subject, and I'll be your dictator and you'll be my king. When Hashem made the world, he wanted to make it to a king rather than a dictator. Hashem runs the world. But if we cooperate with him and he cooperates with us, he's called a king. If we don't cooperate with him and we give him a fetch, all the time fetch, that's what fetch, I don't know the Yiddish. This brach, half words, means king of the world. As opposed to the dictator of the world. Hashem, this bracha, which is representing the 10th utterance. The 10th utterance is not talking about what Hashem created. The 10th utterance is what Hashem created in the potential of people. That people have an obligation to make this world Hashem's, and we say a bunch of words, and one of the things we say is we're going to see to it, and we're going to give the English to the bracha, It's not gonna be the dictator of the world, it's gonna be the king of the world. Understand? You understand? Good. Let's go back. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu. A bunch of left. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu. Matter of fact, bunch of go ahead.
Sorry,
Go to the politics. Okay.
no, sorry, that I took long, but, you said that a king doesn't want to be a king and does it for the people. You're saying Hashem asked us to be. So now,
You just asked the question that half of them I want to ask. When a person says to me, please make me a king, he's basically saying, please allow me to be the king. Why? Because people cannot split. If the person is going to accept the rule of it for the thing, benefit of others, it has to be this way. If he doesn't want, and they convince. But the English is able to do that, because he's got. He's able to ask us to make him as king. And when we make him our king, he becomes the king of the other chief. Your point is true, but the thing's correct, it's accurate. By people, it must be respect. The person asks others, make me a king, give me permission to be a dictator, it's not a king. The people have to bring it out of him. But by Hashem, it could be that he asks, and at the same time, it'll be true. Because he's not asking, that person can't do it. No one wants to be the king of the world if they stop him. But Hashem doesn't want that he should be our king, he wants that we should be his subject. Just like he has the Rasim, he does it willfully, we have the Rasim. We have to do it willfully. So when he says to us, please make me a king, he's saying, please be my subject. Please accept me as a king. Please desire me. Please have a relationship with Hashem, but it's not based on the fact that Hashem is stronger than me. I don't want to get touched in the nose. So I'll do what he says, but rather desire me, want me. In other words, Hashem doesn't need us to become our king. Hashem needs us to become a subject. And if we're not a subject, he's really not our king. Like people don't know. Your point is very correct. And it's, I didn't make it up, not the question. The answer is what. And the other question becomes very quiet. The quiet people are very nervous. Okay, now we will break. Next week, Wednesday, we'll see what happens in this Hashem. I don't remember what we have, but we're not rushing. I want to go through all of these words. Baruch, Atah, Hashem, L'Kid. Baruch Ha'elu we did, come back. All of these words are saying one thing. The 10th Baruch of Baruch Sha'amad is about giving the world back to Hashem. You give the world back to Hashem by bringing Hashem into the world. You bring Hashem into the world by making space for it. Get it? See you in a week. Well, let's say it on the